So, yesterday afternoon, I had such a great time with a team that was saying bon voyage to one of their members who was actually not leaving the organization, but instead leaving from one location to the next location. I was able to go there and help them facilitate some games and have some team building and some fun as they wished her all the best in her new position at the organization. And then I thought about my week. Like, as I thought about how much I enjoyed that presentation yesterday and helping the team to bond and to say positive goodbyes, which was not necessarily goodbye, but hey, see you later. I started to really think about how enjoyable I've found the last year, despite the world pandemic that we find ourselves in, and what I was able to the determination that I came to, and not determination, the final conclusion that I came to was that after taking ownership of my future, my life, my happiness. So much in my life changed. And I want to just tell you the story of how that happened. You see, I worked in corporate Bahamas where I worked for some exceptional bosses. I've had some leaders in my life who were mentors, leaders in my life who helped to develop my business acumen, my skills, and really helped me to be more of a leader in those organizations that I worked with. And then I had some leaders that made it so difficult to come to work. That saying about people don't leave organizations, they leave bosses. Like, that is so true. I live that. I didn't leave the organization, I left bosses whenever I left an organization because it's so overwhelming to work for someone who is oppressive, someone that only sees your faults, someone that is frightened of your talent, someone that won't give you opportunities. It was, working in those sort of toxic environments literally made me ill. And I found myself overwhelmed in those positions, not being able to function at my best because the environment was so toxic. And it's so easy to slip into victimhood when we find ourselves working on jobs where we're not getting 100% of what we need or where the environment isn't positive. And in contrast to taking ownership, there's so much differences because we can take ownership when we work at organizations where we are empowered, where our leaders mentor us and guide us, where there's opportunity for advancement, where positivity is bred among team members. And so we were able to take more ownership of our lives and our careers, particularly in that way. And so last night, as I was sitting down thinking about how much fun I had with the team that I helped to facilitate this team building for, I then started to think about my week. And as I thought about my week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, today, Thursday, today, I started to think about how taking ownership of my life allowed me in this week to spend so much time with my Nana Love. From in the pool to helping with gardening to helping with cooking in the kitchen, just being able to have the flexibility as she's on midterm to spend so much time with her and create and build so many memories with her. Things that I would not have been able to do if I had failed to take ownership of my life some 3 years ago. It's not easy to step out of what you're doing into an unknown. And so, for a lot of people, the entrepreneurship journey is not for them. But for a lot of people, they can take the step to move from a job or a situation or a relationship that's not giving them everything that they need and take a calculated bet or a calculated risk on themselves and move into a different type of environment. The thing I find about us is that we give up the power of choice. We give up the power to make choices that are in our best interest because we start thinking about all of the negative what ifs. What if I leave this job and go to a next job and the environment isn't any better? What if I leave this job and start my own business and it fails? What if I leave this relationship and there's nobody out there that would love me? Yes, those are all possibilities. But what if you leave that job that's making you unhappy, where you're working for a boss that can't breed positivity, that nitpicks, that doesn't give you opportunity, that only finds the negative in what you do? What about there being another environment where you can find more positivity, where you can actually find a leader who supports you, coaches you, empowers you? We look at the negative so much, and when we look at the negative and allow that to prevent us from taking action, we're giving up ownership and we're starting to live in overwhelm. You know, I decided 3.5 years ago that I wanted, well, not that I wanted to be my own boss, but that I would take the leap of faith and step into my own journey as an entrepreneur. But many years before I stepped out, I actually made the decision that I knew that life had more for me than sitting on a job where my peace at work was dependent on someone else. My peace at work was dependent on a boss, whether that boss was a good boss or a bad boss, because we leave bad bosses and we stay loyal to good bosses. And when we have good bosses, like we work 10, 12 hours, we give overtime, we don't really need, we give of ourselves to the good boss because that person has been good to us. While we do that though, and that's a good thing, are we really carving out the time that we need to take ownership of our own lives and do what we want to do? Because we've now shifted into pleasing the person that's being a good boss to us. And then we run from the person that's not being a good boss. And so I decided that this up and down, this bunch of hullabaloo, this craziness was not making sense for me. And I knew that I was called for something else. And so I decided that I would be my own boss. The journey for an entrepreneur is not easy. And this is not for the weak at heart. This is not for someone that wants a microwave approach. This is not for someone who thinks that success is overnight. This journey is for someone who can take ownership of their life, ownership of their business, and ride out the storms. There'll be ups, there'll be downs, there'll be hills, there'll be valleys. But it also provides you with so much more. It gives you flexibility of time. It gives you flexibility of how you run your organization. It gives you flexibility with your family. And so becoming my own boss was one way that I moved from being overwhelmed to taking ownership of my life. And this entire week, I was able to take off and spend with my granddaughter, not being concerned about how many vacation days I had, or how many sick days I had, or how many family days I have, because I am the business. And being the business, being able to really work my schedule and carve out times in my schedule where I see clients and times that is just strictly on reserve for my family has given me so much happiness in life. Being able to get up in the morning, cook my family breakfast, have breakfast with them before everybody goes out to do whatever it is that they're doing, being able to homeschool my Nana Love, being able to have clients that work on my calendar, go into my calendar and book a time that they want to have a conversation or have their coaching or run coaching programs on my own schedule, help me to take ownership of my life. Now, during the world pandemic, I'm going to be real clear and real honest, real transparent as I usually am. Business did take a dip. But when you are an entrepreneur and you're building your business, one of the most important things to do is to prepare for any eventuality. And so, with that in mind, prior to leaving my corporate job, prior to taking this leap of faith, which was a calculated leap of faith, I actually cut back on all of my expenses, cut out all non essentials, cable, house phones. I mean, I cut out all sorts of bills, and the money that I would have been taking for paying those bills, I actually put in an account. And that account was the foundation upon which I took my jump. It was 3 years of saving all of the non-essential purchases that I'd cut out instead of using that money for something else. I just dumped that in an account and I had that account ready for when I was able to take that calculated risk on myself. So I started with that foundation. And then along the way, as I got my clients and my contracts, there was a purposeful, taking a purposeful amount of money from that payment every single client and putting it into a contingency fund in the event that there was a drought or in the event that things just didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. I would have an extended amount of money to kind of fall back on. And that's how we prepare for any eventuality in life, any financial eventuality, whether we want to step into entrepreneurship or we want to stay on our corporate jobs where we're happy at, we're still putting money aside in the event that there's something emergency or something that comes up that requires us to dip into those funds. We at least have those funds available. And so through COVID, that's how we navigated, that's how we managed, because both my husband and I are entrepreneurs, but having the mindset to put aside for a rainy day in the years prior helped us to really be able to be prepared for the journey that we're currently on now. And so as a result of that, we did feel the pinch of COVID, yes, absolutely, because there was that for about 9 months there was no income. But once things started to come back up, clients gradually started to come back, coaching gradually started to improve. My husband was able to gradually get back out there and get into his business, and we navigated the difficult times as entrepreneurs. And so we just have to make the decision. Do we want to live in overwhelm, or do we want to take ownership of our lives and guide our lives to the place where we believe that we should be or get the things that we deserve? You see, when I was a young girl, I had a vision of what I wanted my life to be, but I lost that vision. At the age of 13 through the age of what, 29, 30, I'd lost all of my visions and my dreams because so many experiences had happened to me. I was actually just living a routine life. I'd not taken ownership of my life. I was rebellious. I was rebounding from situations, not making the best decisions, going from relationship to relationship, going from one job that paid the bills to another job that paid the bills, but didn't necessarily give me fulfillment. And so I felt this emptiness inside of me. I felt this purposelessness inside of me. But as I journeyed to rebuild my life, I started to shift my thinking. And as I started to heal myself, my dreams and my visions came back. And I reminded myself that I wanted to be my own boss. And the journey to being my own boss required discipline. It required financial sacrifice. It required time sacrifice. It required sacrifice in the beginning so that I could have a foundation that I can really start on. And so, getting in the mindset of preparing for the jump is super important. No one just jumps without a plan. No one takes ownership and just jumps. So we have to make sure that we have a plan that we could stand on, and a foundation that we could build on when we decide to take ownership of our lives. And so I love my life today. It's no way in comparison. This is no comparison between working for a good boss 1 year, then that boss leaving, and another boss coming in who has different ideas, different attitudes, the environment becoming toxic, just up and down, up and down. Now I create the environment that I want for my business, for my life. I've taken ownership of that. And so we can make decisions about our lives. We can make decisions about whether we want to continue on that rat race where we're on that hamster wheel and we're just going, we're just doing the same things over and over and over, complaining along the way. We're complaining about, oh, this job is sucking the life out of me. Oh, my boss is so negative. Oh, they won't give me any promotions. Oh, every time I try to apply for a promotion, I'm denied. Oh, I can't get any opportunities. And we just stay complaining and going back to the same job and doing the same thing on this rat race. But we have the opportunity to make another decision. We have an opportunity to decide if we're in this job and we're on this rat race, but we want to get off of that hamster wheel, then there are some things that we need to take personal responsibility for. If we want to stay in that organization and go up the ranks of leadership, now we need to look at ourselves and find out why we aren't given those opportunities. What do we need to develop? How does our attitude need to be adjusted? How do we sit at the feet of experienced mentors in that organization and learn? How do we be coachable, teachable? How do we become mentors of the people who are successful? How do we get involved in personal development programs that help us to become the best that we can possibly be? We have to take that ownership. And when we take that ownership and shift from being a victim into taking a bit more control, so many things, so many circumstances change because we change. People see the change in us and they may be willing to give us more opportunities. Or it may be a requirement that we assess the environment that we're in to determine if we make those changes, any new opportunities will be given to us. And if the answer is yes, then we wholeheartedly go on and become upskilled, make adjustments in our attitudes, get coached, get trained. But if the answer is no, it's then our responsibility to then still take ownership of the next step. Am I going to allow fear to keep me in an environment that's toxic? Whether that's a love relationship, whether that's a career choice, whether that's a family environment, am I going to allow fear of the unknown to keep me shackled to a situation that I know just because I know it? Absolutely not. The unknown is not scary. The unknown is only scary because we lack the faith that what we bring to that environment really makes a difference. Or we lack the belief that we deserve something better or that something better is out there for us. Many of us stay in loveless relationships where people are liars, where people betray us, where they cheat, scheme. You can't find them. You running up and down in the street trying to find them, listening to their voice mail. I mean, it's just like the trust is just gone and you're driving yourself crazy, but you're staying in that relationship, living in overwhelm instead of taking ownership and understanding that when one love dies, you don't die. You have to love you more. You have to love you more than loving someone who's disrespecting you just to have someone in your life. That is not enough. That causes you to live in overwhelm. It causes you to question who you are. It causes you to swallow. It causes you to feel small when you accept behaviors from people that you know you shouldn't accept. We have to take ownership and discover that we're worth more than that and to determine how we want somebody to treat us and be willing to walk away when they don't, because walking away is a signal of our respect for ourselves and that it demonstrates the belief that what that one person doesn't bring, someone will come. And if someone doesn't come, we're okay being alone. We're not desperate for love. And so we have to learn that overwhelm is a state that we decide to stay in, and taking ownership is an action that we decide to take. And we have to decide what fulfillment means to us. To me, fulfillment means getting up in the morning, making my family breakfast, not booking any appointments before 9:30 in the morning, getting my family prepared for the day. It means that when my Nana Love is on school break, that I can take those days off and devote to giving her, creating memories with her, of playing in the pool, of gardening outside, of jumping in the trampoline, of climbing over Nana, of watching TV with Nana. It means that I can take time to be with my husband, to communicate, and to build a relationship that he and I both value. It means having time for my inner circle. It means that I will work harder during the hours that I work, but I get to control those hours. Being fulfilled for me means using my life, my comeback, my rebuild as an example to anyone, everyone out there, that the darkness doesn't have to swallow us, that we can take ownership and come out of victimhood, and that we can move from the darkness towards the light. And when we reach the light, that our lives can then become a light for someone else. Being fulfilled for me is helping women, men, boys, and girls overcome situations that have them shackled. Help them to release those shackles and live the life that they desire. To be a testimony that the life that we want to live is possible. It requires work, but it requires us to take ownership first. We get to decide. We get to decide if we are going to live in overwhelm or if we will take ownership and create the lives that we really want to live. Now, I've been telling you, I'm offering these free 30-minute calls. And on these calls, we talk about what your desire is for the future, how you can map that out, what are some of your fears, and how to get through those fears so that you can start to take action. Success lies in our consistent daily action. So I want to encourage you to book one of those slots. I'm going to drop the link beneath this video. Book one of those slots and let's have a conversation of how you can shift from being in overwhelm to taking ownership and living your best life, a life that you define. So I hope to see you in a Zoom meeting soon, guys, and let's shift from being overwhelmed to taking ownership. Blessings.